Welcome back, everyone. We're jumping right into a brand new explainer today, diving into Chapter 6 of our historical journey. We're setting the stage for a massive, truly seismic cultural shift in ancient India. We're talking about the dawn of early Vedic religion and a total transformation in how power was justified, held, and wielded.
So here's the big question. How did a group of nomadic, chariot-riding warlords become a society ruled by chanting magicians? Let's get right into this because it's literally one of the most fascinating power shifts in all of ancient history. We're looking at a society that completely hacked the mechanics of the universe to elevate a highly specialized group of intellectuals over the guys holding the actual swords.
To wrap our heads around how this happened, we've got to look at a 1,000-year window. Right around 1500 BCE, Indo-Aryan speakers migrate into India. They're bringing horse-drawn war chariots and a very warrior-centric culture straight from the northern steppes. Over the next few centuries, by about 1200 BCE, they push further east into the Yamuna-Ganges region, a settled area called the Doab. And as they settle down, the fighting kind of cools off. They aren't raiding nearly as much, so by 1000 BCE, their focus turns inward. They start systematizing their rituals and elevating this brand new class of specialized priests. And this stable period stretches all the way to 500 BCE, right before we see the explosion of new urban cities and rival kingdoms.
Section 1. Meet the Vedic gods, the powers of the Āryans.
These Aryans brought their own divine powers with them, the devas. And what's really fascinating here is how neatly they categorize their gods into 3 overlapping worlds. It's a brilliant look into their structured view of nature. Up in the sky, the celestial realm, you've got gods like Varun.a, who guards Vr.tra, which is the ultimate cosmic and moral order of the universe. Then in the atmosphere, you have the chaotic storm gods like Indra and Rudra. And finally, down on the earth, the terrestrial realm, you have Agni, the god of fire who acts as the literal mouth of the gods, along with Soma, the divinized sacred plant.
Now, out of all these devas, one guy stood absolutely head and shoulders above the rest in the early days, and that's Indra. Over a quarter of the early hymns are dedicated just to him. He's the paramount atmospheric god. He's the one who famously smashed the serpentine monster Vr.tra to release the world's pent-up waters. But more than that, Indra was the absolute prototype of the Aryan warrior. He's described as tawny, bearded, eagerly rushing into battle, totally fueled by the exhilarating, stimulating Soma juice. Basically, Indra was the ultimate reflection of the Aryans' own warrior self-image at the time. He was all about active, physical intervention and total triumph.
Section 2. From feast to ritual, a major cultural shift.
Now imagine the sheer contrast here. The old way, agonistic steppe feasts. These were rugged, violent, roaring events thrown by nomadic warlords. Competitive hospitality rites filled with the spilling of hot, live blood right into the dirt, the deafening clash of bronze weapons, and just absolute chaos to resolve tribal conflicts. But as they settled into India, they transitioned to non-agonistic Vedic rituals. The physical combat, entirely gone. Suddenly, the space is silent, precise, and highly controlled. It's led strictly by priests. Instead of a roaring crowd of warriors, you have hypnotic, exact chanting. Instead of spilling live blood, animals are quietly suffocated so their blood isn't shed alive. It becomes this world of bloodless altars and strict, suffocating geometric precision. The battle essentially moved from the physical human realm into the mythic realm of the sacrifice itself.
So, why the drastic change? Well, unlike the local village cultures that bled animals directly into the earth to promote crop fertility, the Vedic Āryans completely inverted that logic. To them, the earth was a dirty place full of demonic spirits, the Rakshasas. If there was blood or offal, they buried it strictly outside the ritual space just to keep the demons distracted. Their true sacrifices, the pure offerings of clarified butter and meat, went entirely up in smoke, carried by Agni, the fire god, straight into the sky. Their religion always looked up, never down.
Section 3. The rise of the priests and the expansion of the Vedas.
Eventually, this fire ritual became so intensely complex that one person literally couldn't do it alone anymore. They needed a whole team of highly trained specialists. You had the Vr.tra, the priest reciting the poetic mantras from the Rig Veda. You had the Udgatra singing the exact melodies of the Sama Veda. You had the Advaryu muttering formulas from the Yajur Veda while doing the physical manual labor, pouring the butter and tending the fire. But the ultimate evolution here is the Brahmin. The Brahmin didn't sing, he didn't pour, he just sat there completely silent, acting as the overseer. Armed with the Atharva Veda, which was heavily focused on magical charms, the Brahmin acted as the chief cosmic magician. He would mentally correct any microscopic errors the other priests made, making sure the fabric of the universe didn't accidentally unravel.
Section 4. Magic, heat, and creation.
The absolute key to understanding all of this is a single word:
tapas. It translates to heat or fervor. The Vedic priests believed in strict causal magic. As with this, so with that. They believed tapas was a fundamental creative energy. It was the literal heat of the sacrificial fire, it was the cosmic heat of the sun ripening the crops, and amazingly, it was the physical sweat of the devoted, toiling priest. Think about that. These priests literally believed that their sweaty, devotional fervor during the ritual was directly tuning the mechanics of the cosmos, like they were operating a giant machine. They were generating the energy of creation themselves.
To justify holding this immense amount of power, they formalized a foundational myth that linked their sacrifices directly to the physical world. This is the Purus.a Sukta, or the hymn of the cosmic man. And according to this text, everything, the entire physical universe and human society, was created from the dismemberment of a massive, primal person during the very first cosmic sacrifice performed by the gods.
Now, impartially speaking, this hymn mapped out a very strict social and cosmic hierarchy derived directly from the body parts of this cosmic man. From his mouth came the Brahmins, the priests, the masters of speech, along with the gods Indra and Agni. From his arms came the wielders of weapons, the Rajanya, which are the rulers and warriors. From his thighs came the Vaishya, the merchants and farmers. And from his feet came the Sudra, the servants, forming the base of society, corresponding to the earth itself. By placing themselves at the very top, at the mouth, the priests identified their ritual speech with the ultimate source of creation.
Building right on top of this, they claim the universe required constant, ongoing maintenance. According to myth, when the creator god Prajapati created the universe, he became totally exhausted and disjointed. He literally started falling apart. So, he calls to Agni, the fire god, for help. And how does Agni respond? The Shuman priests physically rebuild Prajapati by constructing the massive, highly complex geometric fire altar. The conclusion here is staggering. The priests basically claimed that without their continuous, mathematically perfect rituals, the creator god would remain broken and the physical universe would literally fall apart. Talk about job security.
Section 5. The fear of re-death, and when the magic wears off.
Because after centuries of absolute control, a really dark realization began to dawn on these ritualists. What if the magic wears off?
See, the priests promised that perfectly executing these rituals would grant you wealth in this life and immortality in heaven after you die. But then came this new, terrifying concept called re-death. A creeping, mathematical anxiety started to set in. If the ritual is just a transaction of energy, kind of like a battery powering your afterlife, what happens when the battery runs out? They began to fear that even paradise gained by sacrifice was temporary, that the effects of their ritual magic could eventually deplete, causing you to literally die again, even up in heaven. This creeping fear that the entire material world, even the heavenly realms, was just an impermanent trap began to completely decenter the mighty fire sacrifice they had spent centuries building.
If the fire sacrifice isn't permanent, if all this magic and heat and perfectly constructed altars only buy you temporary time, is there a higher truth? Is there a reality that actually transcends this endless, terrifying cycle of death and re-death? Well, that burning question launches an absolute philosophical revolution. But to find out what happens next, you'll have to join us for Chapter 7, where we dive into the Upanishads. See you then.